January 15, 1947. Los Angeles. Under a pale winter haze, Betty Bersinger was pushing her daughter's stroller in Limerick Park when she spotted something in a vacant lot. At first, she thought it was a discarded mannequin, oddly pale and motionless, but as she stepped closer, her blood curdled. What lay before her wasn't a mannequin. It was a young woman, nude, severed, cleanly at the waist. The city would soon learn her name, Elizabeth Short, but in death, she would be known by another name, the Black Dahlia. What followed was a media circus, a botched investigation, and a trail of suspects and secrets that would leave more questions than answers. Who really killed Elizabeth Short, and why? Today, on The Big Picture, we delve into one of the darkest chapters in Los Angeles' history, a murder that shocked a nation and remains unsolved nearly 8 decades later. This is the story of Elizabeth Short. Before the headlines and the horror, Elizabeth Short was just a girl with dreams. Born in Boston on July 29, 1924, she endured early hardship after her father vanished during the Great Depression, presumed dead. Frail and asthmatic, she split winters between Massachusetts and Miami for her health. At 18, she reunited with her father, who was still alive in California, but tensions grew. She drifted through cities, taking odd jobs, and was arrested once for underage drinking. In 1946, she arrived in Los Angeles, hoping for Hollywood stardom. Friends recall her as poised and stylish, though vulnerable. However, despite rumors, there's no proof she acted in any film or worked as a prostitute. On January 9, 1947, Elizabeth was last seen alive. She had just returned from San Diego with Robert "Red" Manley, a married salesman she had briefly dated. Manley said he dropped her off at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, where she planned to meet her sister. Witnesses confirmed seeing her in the hotel lobby and later at a nearby cocktail lounge. After that, she vanished. 6 days later, on the morning of January 15th, her naked, lifeless body was discovered. The scene was so horrific that it seemed ripped from a nightmare. Her body was sliced clean in half at the spine, a procedure so precise it mirrored techniques taught in 1930s medical schools. It was surgical, calculated, proof that the assailant likely had medical training. And this was no ordinary crime. Medical examiners reported that her corpse had been carefully washed with gasoline and left at the scene, with no blood anywhere around, and the absence of blood proved the murder took place elsewhere. The brutality inflicted on Elizabeth was savage and ritualistic. Ligature marks encircled her wrists, ankles, and neck tightly, evidence of severe restraint. Her face was carved with a grotesque Glasgow smile. Entire patches of flesh were cut away from her breasts and thighs. Her intestines had been tucked neatly beneath her body, which had been deliberately posed, arms above her head, elbows bent, legs spread apart. The murder sent shockwaves through LA. The LAPD, swamped by pressure and false confessions, questioned over 150 suspects, yet found no solid lead. Meanwhile, the press swooped in like vultures, scooping police leads, tampering with evidence, and turning the case into a relentless media circus. The nickname Black Dahlia was coined by the newspapers, adding a sexualized aura to Elizabeth's tragic death. Headlines labeled her a sex fiend slaying, a Hollywood adventuress, turning her into a scandal instead of showing who she really was. Now, from the moment Elizabeth Short's mutilated body was discovered, the Black Dahlia case spun into a web of theories, suspects, and disturbing possibilities, many pointing not just to a killer, but to a city trying to bury its darkest secrets. One name looms large: Dr. George Hodel. A wealthy physician with surgical skill and a sordid past, he was suspected of his secretary's overdose and accused of abusing his daughter. Decades later, his own son, former LAPD detective Steve Hodel, accused him of Elizabeth's murder. Wiretaps from 1949 recorded George allegedly admitting to the crime. Soon after, he fled the country. But George was far from the only suspect. Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner, had his name on an address book sent to the press. He was said to have known Elizabeth Short and may have been romantically rejected by her. Though officially cleared, doubts lingered about his role and his ties to other figures in Short's life. Then there was Leslie Dillon, a former mortician's assistant, who confessed to the homicide and then retracted. Retired Long Beach detective Buzz Williams wrote that his father, who investigated Elizabeth's case, believed Dillon was the killer. He claimed Dillon avoided extradition from Oklahoma thanks to political ties. Dillon's ex-wife was related to Illinois Governor Adlai Stevenson II, who may have helped him. Author Pugh Eatwell suggests Dillon, Hansen, and a corrupt detective silenced Elizabeth after she uncovered a robbery ring, possibly killing her at the Astor Motel, where blood was found hours before her body surfaced. However, the LAPD denied the connection. Then came the taunting letters signed by the Black Dahlia Avenger. They contained Elizabeth's birth certificate and photos wiped clean with gasoline, like her body. And despite the efforts of over 750 officers, the case never unraveled. They even subpoenaed the USC Medical School for student records, but nothing panned out. Some point to the wider wave of violence engulfing the city. Between 1943 and 1949, over a dozen women were murdered in a similar brutal fashion, leading some to link the Black Dahlia case to other unsolved crimes. The Cleveland torso murders and Chicago's lipstick murders, including the dismemberment of 6-year-old Suzanne Degnan, showed chilling parallels. So, was this the act of a lone predator? Or was it the work of a predatory group? We still don't know. What we do know is that this case left a mark. It horrified the nation and sparked change, pushing California to become the first state to require sex offender registration. Today, Leimert Park is just another stretch of suburbia, but the earth remembers. Nearly 80 years ago, Elizabeth Short's body was left here, bisected, posed, stripped of identity. She wasn't the Black Dahlia when she died. She was Elizabeth, a daughter, a dreamer, chasing stardom in a city that swallows hope. Each winter, as cold settles over Los Angeles, one question still echoes. Who killed Elizabeth Short? We may never know, but as long as the city breathes, we will never forget. Because somewhere in this city, the answer still waits. So if this story haunts you too, like, comment, and share, and let others hear Elizabeth's name.